Hello, 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 my friends. Happy hump day. It's Jen Coken here, your favorite recovering stand-up comedian and your favorite go-to executive leadership coach for those of you women who are in these traditional male-dominated industries. Think engineering, think technology, aerospace, construction, manufacturing, all the places where you look around, you're like, I don't see a lot of people that look like me. So every Wednesday, we're going to be kicking it back with a cup of coffee to chat about the big stuff, the tough stuff, and the stuff that makes me and you go, really? Yeah, that's right. So I'll be sharing insights, laughter, and poking fun at some of my favorite things, as well as diving into some serious topics with a lighthearted twist. Because I am always of the opinion if it ain't fun, I'm not doing that shit. And yes, I said shit on a LinkedIn Live. Deal with it. Because who says you can't find humor in the climb to the top or the climb to the top, the next top, whatever it is? So grab your coffee. Let's shake things up. Let's shake up your midweek routine with a mixture of fun, facts, and especially fearless conversations. You ready to rock and roll? All right, go grab your cup, take a sip, and you're going to hear about something today that makes me go, and here's what makes me scream all the time. And I recently got an email. This is what triggered this today. Recently got an email from a placement firm, a career counseling firm. I don't know why I got it. I'm not looking for another job. I love what I do personally. So it said at the top, in this 1 hour webinar, and it listed all of the benefits. The number one benefit, curing imposter syndrome. Yeah, that's what it said. Cure imposter syndrome. Get the fuck out of town. You can't cure imposter syndrome, people. So quit thinking you can. Actually, there is one point in time when you can. It's when you're dead. So maybe these people are trying to murder me. I don't understand. Let me break it down for you. Imposter syndrome is and by the way, it's not even a syndrome. That's a medical diagnosis. People use it, myself included. Guilty as charged because the SEO ranks higher. It's a phenomenon, meaning it's phenomenological. It happens as lived. You experience it in your body. Why? Because what it is an amygdala hijack. Your amygdala is that reptilian part of your brain that governs fight, flight, or freeze. And the brain is consistently trying to make sure that we stay safe, right? It used to be physical safety. Now it's psychological safety, except the brain can't discern between a dinosaur coming at me or not a dinosaur, a saber-toothed tiger, let's say, like a real threat versus somebody saying to me, would you present at this conference as the keynote speaker? And there's going to be 10,000 people there or 1,000 people there or 100 people there. It doesn't matter. I always have the same kind of frightening experience because I know my butt's on the line to deliver some goods for people. So imposter syndrome is really an amygdala hijack. The moment the brain experiences a threat, the body responds, sweaty armpits, sweaty palms, what's it called? Like you feel like you've just gotten punched in the gut. Maybe you tense up parts of your body. It could happen when your boss calls you into the office, when you're getting ready for a board meeting, when you're asked to speak up in a room, when you've spoken up, and this happens all the time, when you as a female have spoken up and nobody really pays attention to your idea, and then a man says it, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, great idea." And then you think to yourself, "What the heck? I just came up with that idea." All those moments in time when the brain experiences a threat, the body is going to experience mood. It's going to have body sensations. Your heart's going to beat faster. That's all it is. And here's the deal about imposter syndrome. Like I said, the only time you can get rid of it is when you're dead. All the tips, tools, and tricks on the internet, 3.3 million, by the way, you can go Google that shit right now, are teaching you how to navigate it, overcome it. None of that works. It's not going to go away. Do you hear me? It will never go away. It is actually a hallmark, and I tell my clients this all the time, that you are up to something big, that you're playing a big game. If you didn't have imposter syndrome, it's because you're sitting on the couch eating bonbons watching The Bachelor. And you don't feel threatened when you're eating bonbons and watching The Bachelor. At least I don't. If you do, it's a whole other LinkedIn Live I should do or a referral or something like that. I don't know. So, if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're not playing a big enough game. You're not challenging yourself. And truth be told, and you know this too, when we're challenged, we grow. And so, welcoming that experience of imposter phenomenon in the moment lets you know you're on the right track, lets you know there's something at stake here. Now, you're not going to get rid of it, but you can absolutely do two really important things. The first one is to get to the source, or what I call the defining moment of where you put your unique version of imposter syndrome together and how you have had it be a superpower. And imposter syndrome is your superpower, hands down. With all the clients I've coached through this, and I take people through a guided meditation, we get back to the root, usually between the ages of 9 and 12, often around belonging or fitting in. And what happens is the brain gets threatened, shame, um, maybe you're afraid you're going to disappoint somebody, feeling guilty about something. You feel threatened. And in that moment, the brain's also going to make sure that experience, that amygdala hijack, doesn't happen again. So it's going to figure out strategies for your own success to avoid that situation. The problem is, once that brain pattern is in place, everything else kind of continues to keep it on that same groove. It's almost as if it's a self fulfilling prophecy that you're going to look for the same thing happening. Let me give you a really good example. I had a client years ago, and one of the things we talked about was she was a COO, amazing at her job. She made sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. I almost said the T's dotted and the I's crossed, but all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Super successful at that. However, it didn't go over so well when she was managing other people because they couldn't live up to her expectation of perfectionism. Now, here's what's worse. She couldn't live up to her own experience of perfectionism, so she never celebrated her successes because for her, it was never going to be good enough, never going to be good enough. So I led her on this meditation. And of course, I'm not going to do that for you here, but I'm going to tell you what to do on your own. Led her through this meditation. We got back to a simple memory of when she brought home a C on her test and her father was upset. She never wanted to be in that position again. She was a straight A student, 1C, and she never was in that position again. But in that moment, the brain experiences shame or guilt, and the brain goes, okay, I'm going to get it right. That's what her brain said. I'm going to get it right, got to get it right, got to get it right. So her whole life became about getting it right. Now, is that a problem? No. Especially if you're a CFO, you're a COO, you're a CEO, you're a human being. You want to get things right. Here's the problem, though. She wasn't at choice about getting things right. She was at the effect of something that happened to her when she was 9 years old. So it was like an upset 9-year-old was driving the bus, called her life. And I tell you, the same thing has happening to you. How do you discern what that defining moment is? Here's a simple way. Start noticing red flags, early warning signs that the brain has gone into an amygdala hijack. Notice if you're in a meeting and maybe you get flushed. I used to have someone that worked for me that would get flushed every time she would go to speak. So maybe you clench your jaw, maybe you clench your legs, maybe you feel, a pit in your stomach, or you start getting sweaty. And notice if it's either one of two places: your relationship to authority or your relationship to your peers. That's the starting point. Then, once you can write down that situation, and you won't be able to write it down in the moment because we don't, if you're an amygdala hijack, your logic is out the window because your reptilian, I gotta stay safe brain is risen. And so there's no way you're to write it down in the moment, but reflecting, right? At the end of the day, you could reflect. Did I have any of those experiences Jen was talking about? Great. Write that out. And then ask yourself this question: does that ever remind me about something that's happened earlier? Is there an earlier similar experience to what happened today? Write that down. Then ask yourself, is there an earlier similar experience? And keep going back, back, back to get to the earliest, most similar experience. That is likely where you put that brain pattern together. And then ask yourself the question, well, okay, if that was the earliest experience. And it's not never anything dramatic or traumatic, by the way. It's almost always something innocuous. You offer to buy friends ice cream and someone says, there she goes again, trying to help everybody. And you decide, I'm never going to be helpful again, unconsciously. This is not conscious, by the way. Never going to be helpful again. I'm never going to ask for help, except if you're managing people or you want to get into the C suite, you want to become an executive leader, you darn well better be good at asking for help and offering help. Okay. As a manager, something innocuous, and don't worry if it's not logical, that earlier similar pattern, just go to the earliest one. So there you are. And then ask yourself this question: how have I tried to make sure, what's been my success since then? What have I done from that moment that has consistently gotten me success? Because that is going to be your success strategy, and how imposter syndrome is actually your superpower. Being able to work independently is a superpower. Not everybody can. Believe me, I've coached, I don't know, 30, sorry, I've been coaching almost 30 years and I've coached upwards of 10,000 leaders. Not everybody's a self-starter. Not everybody's what I call a self-cleaning oven where they'll figure it out on their own. So being independently responsible, being able to work independently is a superpower. Being driven is a superpower. I had another client who her, family told her she couldn't try on a pair of pants because she was too big. And she was like, I'll show you. And she got them on. She never wore those pants again, but her whole life had been about, I'll show you, and being driven, never satisfied with success. So reflect on the day, look to see if you had an amygdala hijack, AKA imposter phenomenon, AKA imposter syndrome, earlier, similar, earlier, similar, earlier, similar, till you get to the beginning. And then ask yourself, okay, because of that, who did I become to be successful and avoid that happening again? Then once you identify that defining moment, and look, if you can't do it on your own, give me a shout out. We can talk about working on that together. I've got a course on Udemy, or you and I can work together. Once you get to that moment, you're then going to be able to be at choice about how you want to show up. Because being able to identify and unlock that brain pattern is the start of something. Now it's mastering, noticing, witnessing when you're having that same kind of response, so that each moment you witness, oh, I just had that feeling of like my shoulders hunched, that must be that imposter syndrome thing. Let me choose how I'm going to show up in this moment right now. You can be a leader, you can be direct, you can be helpful, you can offer help, all the ways of being that are available to us. So, folks, quit telling people they can cure imposter syndrome. It's a load of bullshit. It's not possible. Do the work on yourself to get to the root of it, because it does take work and it does take practice to unpack it each and every time. I still, even after digging into this for the last 8 years specifically, I still have to monitor and manage myself when I'm around groups of people, because that's when mine gets triggered. The brain's the brain. The brain has a negativity bias. Again, can't cure it, but you can certainly identify and disrupt the brain pattern and get really masterful at interrupting it moment by moment by moment. So that, my friends, is what made me scream today on this little Java with Jen. It's one of those things that made me go, really? I'll be back every Wednesday with a little more laughter, a little more insight. And I look forward to hearing your comments about what I posted today, specifically if you go practice what I'm preaching, but I ain't no preacher. All right, friends. Ciao, ciao for now. See you next week on Java with Jen. You